Brought to you by 1AAuto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet.
Hi, I'm Mike from 1AAuto. I hope this how-to video helps you out. And next time you need parts for your vehicle, think of 1AAuto.com. Thanks.
In this video, we're going to show you how to replace a rear caliper. We'll show you the right side. Left side's the same procedure. This is a 2002 GMC Sierra. The procedure is the same for this generation Sierra as well as the Chevy Silverado. On our vehicle, the brake caliper was seized, but that wasn't the only problem. So if you find you have a bad caliper, just make sure you check the entire brake system to make sure that you don't have stuck pads or something else wrong with your truck. For this, you're going to need jack and jack stands, a lug wrench or a 22mm socket with a breaker bar, a hammer, T55 Torx driver, an 18mm socket, a torque wrench, a 10mm wrench, and if you don't want to get brake fluid all over your floor, you'll want a little bottle and a hose for bleeding the brakes. Okay, start out by taking the wheel cover off, undo the caps, the little plastic caps by hand, then use either a breaker bar or impact wrench, and if you don't have the benefit of air tools, you'll want to start with the vehicle on the ground, loosen the lug nuts first, then raise and secure the vehicle and remove the lug nuts, wheel and tire. Okay, removing the brake slide bolts is always fun, especially when they're the original ones that are a T55 Torx bit. And what we're doing right now is just using a hammer right on that ear where the slide bolt goes in. We're wrapping it really hard, try and loosen it up a little bit. And now using our T55 Torx bit, a breaker bar, and even a pipe for some extra leverage, you can break those bolts free. Or actually, you just need to break the lower one free. Okay, and after we get it broken free, we'll speed up here now as we just remove it the rest of the way. Okay, and you want to note how it comes out. You can see we can actually use our fingers after a while. That means that the slide bolt is nice and free. If they stick at all or they're difficult to get out, you want to make sure you clean those up really well and then re-lubricate them. Make sure that they go in nice and easy and slide easily.
I'm going to use a long screwdriver and wedge it in down here between the caliper bracket and the caliper itself. And once it's up and out of the way, you can pull it out the rest of the way.
Okay, you can see here, I'm in the car, I'm going to press the brakes. You see the top piston moved out, the bottom piston didn't move. That's basically confirmation that this caliper is bad and needs replacement. Okay, so here we're just getting prepared. Got the new caliper standing by. We take the plug out of the top. Okay, we take the old caliper, kind of put it down into place, just kind of helps hold it in position. 11mm socket and ratchet, and you remove the bolt that holds the fitting into the caliper, and we try to do this relatively quickly so that as little brake fluid leaks out as possible. One thing, just make sure you have the cap on the master cylinder. That will slow down any of the fluid leaking out. And then as we just remove the bolt, when you put it back in, make sure you replace the copper washer that's on the bolt, and then put the bolt through the hose, put another new copper washer on, and then into the caliper and tighten it up. Okay, here in this shot, Don is holding the caliper bracket. Just sorry if this might confuse you, but on this truck, you saw that the caliper, one of the pistons was frozen up. That was actually as a result of the old caliper bracket had rusted and pushed the caliper slides out and basically had kind of frozen the brake shoes in place. So on this truck we actually replaced the caliper bracket as well. So this is just something to look for. If you had trouble getting your what you want to do is take your brake pads off. They should come off with a little force, but by hand. If you have to use a hammer or anything to get the brake pads off, then chances are your caliper bracket has rusted, and you'll probably need to either clean it up really well and put the slides back on, put some grease on it and reinstall the pads, or you'll need to replace your caliper bracket. Okay, here we are placing the new caliper back in. If your caliper came with both slide bolts installed, you'll want to remove the lower slide bolt, slide it in place. Be careful when you rotate it down onto the pads that you don't pinch the lower boot with the caliper, and then kind of move it around, get that lower slide bolt back in place, and get it preliminarily tightened up.
Working these to 75 to 80 foot-pounds. Make sure you have plenty of fluid in the reservoir before you bleed the brakes.
Okay, and the top one we can't quite get the torque wrench onto, so we just get some leverage on a couple wrenches and tighten it up.
Have somebody in the car pump up the brakes for you. This is a 10mm bleed screw. I'm using a little hose and a bottle to catch the brake fluid. And then after they've pumped it a couple times, you can say just hold it. Okay, you hold them?
Yep.
And break your bleeder free. Pump it again. Hold it. Pump it again. Hold it. And once you see no more bubbles coming out, you know it's good.
And now we'll speed up here as we put the wheel and tire back in place. Start the lug nuts on by hand first. Make sure you don't cross thread any of them. Then use your impact wrench or whatever wrench and just kind of preliminarily tighten them up. Then lower the vehicle on the ground. Tighten those lug nuts up to 110 foot-pounds using a crossing pattern. Basically you do one, then do the one opposite of it, go to the next one, then do the lug nut opposite of that one, go to the one beside it, then the one opposite of that one until you have all 8 nice and tight. And then when you put the cap on, make sure you use the correct procedure. You put the cap in place, and then you turn the lug cap or the lug cover by hand until you feel it click once, and then you turn it another quarter to half a turn until it rests in the next detent. And then always, last but not least, pump your brakes a bunch of times, and then do some test stops from 5 and 10 miles an hour before road testing the truck. We hope this helps you out. Brought to you by www.oneauto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet. Please feel free to call us toll-free 888-844-3393. We're the company that's here for you on the internet and in person.